Hello, Denim Heads. This is David from the Sons of Selvage podcast with a 5x1 review, where I tell you 5 things you want to know about one rugged good. And today I am looking at the John Lofgren M-43 service shoes, not to be confused with service boots, whatever that means. And I'm looking at these in both the black Shinki Hikaku Horsebutt, and I've also got the pair of the olive Shinki Hikaku Horsebutt. So first and foremost, let's jump right into the leathers. Um, the Shinki Hikaku Horsebutt is a very interesting leather. This shoe, you'll see that the leather is like really smooth and almost kind of matte finish on the toe box with no wrinkliness. Whereas you see on the middle of the shoe, it's really hard to kind of capture in the light, but there's some kind of like almost like watermark, veiny kind of texture. Um, Maybe see a little bit there, some of the kind of texture. And then if I look at my left pair, it's significantly different. This pair has got almost like a lot of like, almost like tortoise shell in it and a big scratch I got on them. Ignore the scratch. And what that is interesting is that each individual shoe, not just each individual pair, is going to really differ a lot in terms of how the leather comes together. And that's just kind of what you get when you're dealing with Shinki Hikaku Horsebutt. They're not all going to look the same. And if you're buying this boot, you kind of have to do it knowing that you're going to get something interesting, maybe something consistent, maybe something not. But if that really matters to you, that like you have like something that looks holistic and the same across a pair, you need to buy them in person. So for example, my olive pair, you can see it's kind of got the veiny texture on the toe, kind of a bit more of like a water ripply texture on the vamp, and the heels kind of a bit plain. Some cool sort of interesting scars from the horse's life, scratching on stuff. But again, this pair is a lot more similar across the two boots. They kind of have the same finish. Whereas my black pair I showed you, one foot was very wrinkly, one foot was very smooth. So you just need to know that going into it, that each pair is unique. And one thing that's really interesting I'll mention is kind of a bonus on the leather is something about the black in the sun. You can see through the T-core. So like it's almost like you can see through the black and see the kind of brown under it. So right now it looks quite shiny black, and I put a lot of polish on it to try and keep them black. But in the sun, it's almost like the brown shines through the black. It's really cool and hard to articulate, but you got to see it. So maybe on point number 2, then let's talk about patina. So these are going to turn brown. This is the leather on the inside. It's not black. So over time, as the black wears off and rubs off the surface, these are going to be brown, which is what's called a T-core finish. Like you see the core of the leather. Why that's interesting is like if you buy these because you wanted to have a black pair of boots, maybe not the best of idea. I'm still myself learning to embrace this idea of something black evolving to become brown. I'm not like a T-core fanboy, but trying it out. Similarly, the soles are brown, not black, I guess because they're kind of preparing for that evolution. They're Vibram. If the Matters number, this is apparently a 700, and this is apparently a 7335 or vice versa. What matters to me is they're a cork sole, so you can see like little pieces of cork inside the rubber. Really nice, super comfortable, and they look pretty cool. So point number 3, I'll talk about the fit, and I'll use this one. So these are made on the Munson last, which is a last from the early, like kind of like end of World War I, pre-World War II, that was designed to fit a lot of different foot shapes. So you'll notice it's pretty slim throughout the instep and the heel, but then the toe box, it kind of like shoots out to the side and then kind of is quite bulbous in the front and then kind of smooth on the inside. And what that means is that this one last fits a lot of different foot shapes. It was kind of like a one-fits-all last design, but it succeeded in doing what it was intended to do by the time they used it in World War II. So my feet are 11.5 heel to arch length, or 10.5 heel to toe length. I've got boxy Roman feet, so I've got long arches, short toes, and these fit great for me. These are 10.5 Lofgren, which is one full size down from my Brannick, which is their guidance. Granted, you can see there's a little bit of extra space at the end, but past where my toes sort of end, But for me, this boot fits great. Like the instep feels great. It really hugs my feet. The heel feels solid. I can just wear these all day and they're super comfortable. There's never any kind of point where I'm like, that one part feels a little bit weird on my foot. They just feel great. And I think that's the beauty of the Munson Last, is it can fit a whole bunch of different feet shapes with not a lot of sizes. Also, for point number 4, I'll talk about the silhouette. I'll go back to the green ones because I love the way they look. This is not a reproduction of a World War II boondocker. It's kind of a reinterpretation of it, like a modern rethink of that design. And I actually think it really stands out for that reason. Something about this kind of arch or curvature to the instep is really beautiful. The fact you see like contrast white stitching on, just on this pair actually, that pair has got black stitching. You see the contrast white stitching, 4 stitches here, 3 stitches in the heel, and then also like the way the heel cup kind of like traces the boot and rounds the top. It's just a really, really beautiful shoe. And the fact that it's an unstructured toe and the toe box collapses means you get this like really sleek silhouette across the bottom. Same holds true if you get a pair of the Chromexel ones versus the Horsebutt ones. They're just a really lovely shoe. They look great on the foot. You know, they look great with a pair of jeans. And this particular one looks lovely, lovely, lovely with a pair of faded blue jeans. Check out Standard and Strange's photo shoot they did when they had this boot. Awesome, awesome aesthetic to it. They look super, super cool. And then maybe for point 5, I'll say that these boots are like almost flawless. Both pairs, just the makemanship is so well done. You know, you're paying a premium for a Japanese made product, but I do think you're getting a good boot for your price. I would almost say I have no complaints with these, except for maybe one thing. I do have one little stitch here on the heel counter that's coming loose. But again, there's 2 other rows of stitching, so I'm not too fussed about it. But you know, they aren't perfect, and you got to keep that in mind, even if you're buying what I think is a lovely, well-made boot. You know, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to have some issues along the way. Going back to the leather, each of these are going to be very different from pair to pair. So for example, this pair, you can see the top of the shoe is soft, and it's kind of floppy when you hit it. Shinki Hikaku Horsebutt. Exact same Horsebutt, different pair of shoes, no give at all. And you could say, oh, well, that pair's broken in, this pair's not broken in, but I've probably worn these 30 some odd times, maybe more, maybe 40. And I've had them for a year and a half, and they're still really firm. And I think it might be when you buy Horsebutt that sometimes it has the shell cordovan inside of it, which is the membrane, the shiny membrane that is made into its own leather. Obviously I can't prove that, but this pair feels really firm and solid, almost kind of rubbery, that kind of horsehide rubbery feel, whereas the other pair feels kind of floppy, more like a Chromexel kind of leather would feel when it's broken in. So please note when you buy these that like each individual pair is going to break in and feel different. So again, best if you can try them on in person rather than buying them online. So there we go. Thanks for dialing in. Hope you enjoyed this review.